The Truck Series, the Xfinity Series, and the Cup Series all head to Homestead this weekend. We get you ready from a betting perspective next on the NASCAR Betting Preview Show. Everybody listening on X, thanks for tuning in there as well. And everybody listening live via the stream on the NASCAR Betting Preview Show Twitter account, welcome as well. Very excited for tonight as the series, Trucks, Xfinity, and Cup all head to Homestead Miami Speedway for what is expected to be a great race with all three series there. It's been a while since the trucks, and I'm excited to talk to Phil a little bit later here on the NASCAR Betting Preview Show podcast as well about trucks. But to hear, what the guys have to say tonight across all series. So the NASCAR Betting Preview Show is presented by Atlas Hair. Atlas is an elite line of hairstyling products with cologne fragrances. So get started today at atlashair.com. Use the promo code NASCAR for 20% off your entire order. That's atlashair.com, ATLASHAIR.com. And again, can't thank everybody over at In Between Media enough for powering the broadcast on the YouTube side of things. Thank you, Seth. Thank you to your team. It's been a great start over the last 8 weeks or so of us doing it on that platform. So again, thanks everybody for showing support there. Make sure you subscribe and like. It helps them out vastly as well as they're continuing to grow their platform as well. Can't wait, like I said, to talk to Phil and Mark and then our guest here this evening. And Phil, you dropped your podcast here this morning. The Phillies are in the playoffs. I know you're trying to do a lot of different things on that end. So first and foremost, good the Phillies are doing well. How are you doing? And are you excited for this week?
How can I not be, Derek? I'm just fired up in a bunch of different ways. I'm not used to so many good things in my sports fandom going right around the same time. So I don't know what to do with myself this weekend. We got the Phillies obviously in the NLCS off to a good start. I got Penn State playing Ohio State. That's going to be crazy. And then we've got the NASCAR season winding down, and it's just super excitement there too to try to finish the season off strong. So really looking forward to it. It's going to be a good weekend all around, hopefully, and we'll keep the momentum going.
Yeah, I agree. I don't see why we should stop now. So looking forward to talking with you tonight, hearing what you have to say. And again, Phil has the Full Tank with Phil podcast, so go check him out as well. Mark Harris, a.k.a. SKYBOX NASCAR, host of Lane Coin Pod, host of Through the Gears podcast. Mark, we're coming down to the Sunshine State. How are you?
Come on down, baby. Don't be afraid to stay a little while. I'm a little bummed I won't be down there, but yeah, man, Homestead's a great place to be. I know a couple guys are going down there. Have fun. Drink a bunch of cold beers for me. Looking forward to it. Definitely one of my favorite tracks to bet. Definitely my favorite track to live bet. That's for sure. Mm-hmm. 3-4 laps on tires makes a difference here, and that's what makes it fun. And I think the comp track discussion this week is going to be a big one. I'm going to get into it a little bit, and I know there's some varying various ways you can look at it this week. So I took a little bit of a couple different ways to look at it from a comp track perspective, but I'm really looking forward to it. Hopefully we can see some passing, see some guys rip the wall, and coming off back-to-back outrights, which I haven't said in maybe at all this year. So feeling good. Newest fan of the Fightin' Phillies. I mean, the Fightins. And Phil, I feel you, buddy. My sports teams are always terrible. I always root for the underdog NASCAR driver. I'm a Jags fan. I mean, come on, it's been abysmal for 15 years. So ready to wrap the season up well and go to Homestead. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I am as well. It's gonna be a lot of fun, and I think all three series, Trucks and Xfinity on Saturday, then Cup on Sunday, it is going to be a lot of fun to watch. So this week we are joined by a very special guest, Chris Wormy. You've heard Chris on the Stay Green podcast with Todd Furman. He hosts the pre-race poll every Sunday during the NASCAR season. He's a professional sports bettor. Chris, thanks for joining us. I feel like this is one of a couple shows for you. Everybody's trying to pick that brain of yours as we go to Homestead this week.
Yeah, I love this track. Anytime you have fall off and like longevity comers and goers, it's great for prediction. Now, it doesn't mean it's not still a perfect science, but man, I love it. So I'm excited to have a discussion.
I agree. We will have some discussions for sure. So it'll be a lot of fun. Appreciate you joining us here tonight. And for anybody that's new listening, over the next hour, we'll probably get out of here at 9, if not slightly before. We're going to go over a couple things. Rapid fire. We're going to go over some track facts. We're going to go over the odds board, championship playoff thoughts as well, some finishing positions, outright pricing, and more. This is going to be the hashtag Forever 400. They're honoring Kevin Harvick this weekend at Homestead. Stage 1 will be 80 laps. Stage 2 will be 85 laps. That final stage, run to the finish on Sunday, will be 102 laps. Practice and qualifying will be Saturday at 9 a.m. Eastern. So, Chris, for you, it's going to be a little early one, in your neck of the woods there. Some track trends in history. Toyota has won 2 of the last 4 Homestead races, including 4 of the last 6 and 5 of the last 8. 8 of the last 10 winners have come from the starting top 5. So we'll be interested to see what happens at the end of day Sunday. And if that trend continues, those stats were via Eric_race review on Twitter. So make sure you support him as well. Gentlemen, let's jump right into some of the rapid fire element. Then we'll get into some of the betting talk. Phil, I want to start with you. Young Money scored a win here on Sunday, and just want to get your thoughts here. What's your outlook for him? And is he the favorite going into Phoenix, in your opinion?
Young Money? Who
Young Money.
Young Money.
Kyle Larson.
Larson?
You've not heard?
Stop that, Phil.
Get the hell out of here. You don't know that.
Are you?
I've never heard anybody call him Young
Come
Money.
on.
You've never heard
You're
that?
serious?
I am serious, yeah.
That's
Are
abysmal.
you living under a rock?
Point me into the direction of something that refers to him as Young Money. I've never heard that. When I hear Young Money, I think of Lil Wayne.
You're embarrassing yourself right now, Phil. You're embarrassing yourself.
This is good.
Lil Wayne is Young Money in my eyes. So yeah, I mean, did you say is he the favorite at Phoenix?
I mean, yeah, Kyle Larson, is he the favorite in your opinion heading into Phoenix?
100%.
Everybody talks about that first win of the playoffs in this round. Is he your favorite?
Well, without knowing who else is in there, yeah, and so you have to give the edge. I mean, we saw it last year with Logano. Those guys had that time to prepare, and they executed when they got to Phoenix. So, I mean, I don't necessarily know off the top of my head Larson's statistics at Phoenix and how good he is and how not good he is, but to have that extra time, I think we've seen it. There's precedent set there that he's, it helps. So yeah, and the odds board would reflect that, obviously. So I have to imagine it just feels like Larson just kind of showing up at the right times. And we were talking beforehand, listening to you guys talk how he got a little lucky. It just the best drivers show up at the right times, and we'll see what happens at Phoenix. But I think how could you not? I mean, one of the best drivers in the world, and he'll be racing for a championship of 4 drivers. He's the favorite.
I'm going to start working in some Lil Wayne songs, knowing that you are a Lil Wayne fan, apparently. So
who is?
I'm going to start. True. Yeah. Who is it? Who among us is not a Lil Wayne fan? How about Mark? I'm going to kick it over to you. You'll like this question. Trevor Bayne in the number 25 truck this weekend. Your thoughts?
Yeah, why you got to do this to me? I think it's having Chandler Smith and then Trevor Bayne in this truck is just ridiculous. I mean, why would you? There had to have been some sort of bad blood between Matt and the team for him to be out the last 3 races. I think that's quite ridiculous that they filled the spots with Chandler Smith and Trevor Bayne. I can't imagine Trevor Bayne is now a Chevy driver. I get it with Chandler Smith. Maybe they're going to, try something new the last 3 races, put someone in the truck that's going to be in the truck next year. I don't know what's going on. Chandler Smith had a good run at Talladega, and we'll see what Trevor Bayne can do. I hope to God he shits down his leg. I hope he has a clean race. I hope he finishes 29th and 3 laps down. So that's how I hope it goes. And, I can't believe you even directed that question towards me.
This is rapid fire. I want to get your hot takes. Worm, for you, curious what your thoughts are here. So Reddick is 6-1 to win this weekend in some spots. He's also 14-1 to win the championship. Which of the two is a better play in your estimation?
I think if you're gonna play one alone, I would take.
Yeah.
Isn't there's some 20-1 I think on Reddick to win the championship. I would go there. If it's 16-1. You probably have to split your bets, in my opinion.
Okay.
You can't. It also depends on where you're sitting in championship futures, right? So I have Larson locked in, and I already have some Reddick at 25-1. But if he looks good after practice and qualifying, I would still wait till then, because very rarely do books adjust championship odds after practice and qualifying. So, we're kind of seeing around the corner a little bit when it comes to the championship futures after we look at practice and qualifying. So I like both. But if I had to choose one, that 20-1 price, I feel like is still really good. If you think he has a chance to win the race.
Yeah. If you can find 20-1 out there, love that. We were just talking about 25-1, before the playoffs really officially started. So there's still 20-1 out there. Not too bad. Phil, I'm going to kick it over to you next. Outlook on young Ryan Blaney for the remainder of the playoffs.
Oh man, you kicked this one to me because I think I'm like the only person in America like holding out hope that he somehow puts it together. But I don't think it looks good. It looks pretty bleak. Seems like this weekend, scoring a top 10 would be legitimate, but top 10s aren't going to get you into Phoenix when you're, 17 points down. So I don't think that he's going, pretty much going to be a win and you're in situation going into Martinsville. And I think that's always a tough situation to be in, really tough. So I think that he'll probably finish, 7th in the points yet again. I think that's his highest that he's ever finished in the championship points. So I don't have faith. I've got a future on him, and that's about it. But it's just about to be ripped up, I think.
Well, that's why I wanted to ask you what your thoughts are, because there are some diehard Blaney, fans out there looking for some information. Mark, for you, better finish on Sunday, John Hunter Nemechek or Eric Jones?
I have to go Eric Jones. He's had some rough finishes on the last 2 mile-and-a-halfs, 30th and 28th, but his speed has been there. 15th at I just lost it. Anyways, he had a great car at Texas, could have won the race. What are we going to see out of John Hunter? Are we going to see the Carson Hocevar like top 15, top 20 speed, or are we going to see the Noah Gragson dog shit? I'm going to take the Eric Jones, more seat time. I know John Hunter ran this race a year ago in the 23 or 45, whichever one Bubba Wallace was traded to and then suspended from, yada, yada. He's going to be, I think John Hunter is going to struggle this week, and I think Eric Jones is going to have a better runs. High tire wear. Darlington is a place that Eric Jones is really good at, and he also had a 15th place NLD speed at Nashville and a 7th at Darlington too. So, for a comp track discussion, we'll get into it when we talk about feature matchups, but I love Eric Jones on a high tire wear.
Okay, so Eric Jones, you're saying over John Hunter. John Hunter in the 42 car this weekend on Sunday. Worm, for you, look across multiple series. Go as far as you want to go, but who, in your opinion, is the next Kyle Larson?
Carson Hocevar.
There it is.
I think he has the highest potential upside of any driver. You know, I don't want to say like since Kyle Larson. I just think, you know, I thought Gragson was a really talented driver. And when he wasn't able to get much done at Legacy, along with Eric Jones, I was like, ooh, maybe it's a legacy problem. Well, as soon as Carson Hocevar stepped in that car, it went fast. And it went faster than it went fast. And when he was in Spire stuff, I mean, he's just fast. I don't know. I don't know how else to describe him. Is he's just, if you want your equipment to go fast, put Carson Hocevar in it. Now, you might get some erratic finishes. I think he might have a high beta, meaning he might have some great finishes and then some terrible finishes. But ultimately, if you want to figure out if your shit is fast, put Carson Hocevar in it because he'll figure out a way to make it go fast.
I like that. All right, I like that answer. I can get behind that. Phil, for you, better finish on Sunday, Chastain or Truex Jr.?
Well, real quick, I just want to point out we did a draft, if you remember, Derek, on the Flag Hunting podcast. And do you remember who I gave my lifetime contract to in that draft? Carson Hocevar. And just wanted to, you know, just bring that back up. If Chris is listening out there, maybe we should get a clip of that sent around. So we're talking about Ross or Truex. I'm going with Ross Chastain. I'm going to be talking about Ross in a little bit. I think there's some more upside. I'm starting to not really feel Truex that much anymore. And I'm going to get into why I think Ross is just has some upside later when we get into one of these segments. But Truex, I don't know. I had a lot of hope for him going into Las Vegas and really like for the last few weeks, just kind of thinking like, when's he going to turn around? When's he going to turn around? He's running out of time and, you know, gave away some points and now he's right on the bubble. You know, we'll go with Ross to answer your question.
I like that. Okay, so Chastain over Truex in your opinion this weekend, and Mark, for you, driver to watch that most are sleeping on is who going into Sunday?
I don't know if people are sleeping on him, but he's not a playoff driver, so I'm going to go with Brad Keselowski this week. And I am all over Brad. I'm going to talk about him all night tonight. All week this week, he's 20-1. Yeah, I mean, he's the only if he was still in the playoffs, the number would be different. It's the same discussion about Bubba Wallace last week with the top 10. We were one spot away, I guess now 2 spots away. Then we were 1 spot, then 2 spots. Hey, Brad Keselowski. I think he runs well this week. He's had some great stats that we'll get into, but haven't heard his name yet. It's early in the week. It's early, but I guess we'll call him a sleeper.
That's why I said who are most people sleeping on, and you're saying Brad K. Worm, close us out here. Monday morning headline reads what?
Ooh, Monday morning headline. God, Reddick punches ticket.
Oh, Reddick punches his ticket.
Reddick punches ticket.
All right, so kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier about, hey, maybe grab if you want to kind of do a one ticket, that 25. Did you say 25 to 1's out there, or did I see that in the chat?
No, so I looked it up. 20 to 1 at Superbook in Vegas, and that's where I get a lot of my stuff. That's where a lot of the prices originate across all books. So whenever I'm talking about a price, it usually originates there, and they take decent limits ish.
Yeah.
Reddick. Man, can't believe I just said that, but yeah,
that's good. Okay, I'm glad that we can transition then from there. So you're saying Reddick punches his ticket. Interesting thing about Reddick as well. I think it's in 3 races at Homestead for him because now obviously the series goes there once a year, and there were times where they weren't going there. But he has, let's see, what is it? 2 finishes inside the top 5, and we remember one of the first years he was running. He backed off, thought the last lap was 1 to go, and was thanking his crew, and Blaney, I think it was, right, Phil, in front of him, that was just took off, and the crew's yelling at him, buddy, you know, this isn't the last lap. So Phil, I'm going to kick it to you. Let's get into some of these plays here now going into the weekend. And when we look at the head-to-head standpoint, where have you been able to find an edge in that market?
Well, I'm usually like a matchup maniac. And this week on the podcast, I only put out 1 play because I feel like this market is like razor thin. Anxious to hear what the other guys have to say about it. But the matchup that I found, I took it when it was minus 115 apiece. Now it's minus 135 for Kevin Harvick over Joey Logano. And I still like it. So just to kind of level set and what Mark was saying earlier about like comps, the stats that I'm ripping off here, I'm looking at the last 5 at Homestead. We're looking at 3, just zeroing in on the 3 high tire wear tracks that we've been to, Darlington twice and Auto Club, and then the 9 total like aggregate comp tracks with the mile and a half mixed in there as well. And I didn't expect to play Harvick this week. I was looking actually for someone to play on like a top 10 number, and Harvick kept like jumping out to me when I was looking through all of those different metrics, and was just like, damn, I don't know if I trust him to finish in the top 10 this weekend, but how else can I play him? And found this matchup. Like I said, it was minus 115 at the time, but really enjoy what I was seeing here, because he seemed to be like top 5 everywhere, like everywhere that I was looking here. Last 5 at Homestead, he's got 3 top 5s and 4 top 10s. He's 5th in average finish, 4th in driver rating. And then you say to yourself, well, this year he's dog shit, right? Like Stuart Haas is down. Looking at these contracts, he's 4th in average finish on the high tire wear tracks, 8.7, and that's including a 2nd at Darlington. 9 comps with the mile and a half mixed in, 2 top 5s, 4 top 10s, and he's 9 for 9, finishing in the top 20. He's only 2 drivers can say that, and I find that interesting when we get into these head-to-heads, because we're lowering the bar a bit to finish top 20, but only 2 guys have done it: Mark Sky, Keselowski, and Harvick. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty interesting to me. And then second best average finish in that comp track area, 10.0. Then you look at Joey, and I don't know if it's just like history or whatever, but I feel like, Logano at Homestead, I have pictures of him obviously winning the championship, but since the championship moved from Homestead, he's been dog shit. I think 2 finishes outside the top 20. 1 was like an 18th place finish. So that right there, and his best finish on the high tire wear tracks this year is 10th, 15.7 on the 9 comp tracks. Total speed ranking is 8 spots below Harvick. Like, all these things are just like, damn, this seems like a good matchup here for Harvick. Then you got the fact that the race is named after him. So it's just a lot of things coming together here. And that's why when you're looking at the other matchups, I can't find like edges like that. In this case, it feels like everything's pointing me to Harvick. So that's the way I'm rolling in this one.
Yeah, a couple of things that I'm seeing here on YouTube, and for anybody listening on YouTube, make sure you keep hitting us with some of those comments and questions. For everybody on X as well, make sure you do the same so we can get to everything here. But Big Ross is asking here, Harvick at plus money, is that that's stealing in his opinion? What do you think?
Well, sorry, I muted myself, but
It's okay.
Yeah, I mean, stealing money, I don't know. I mean, the fact that it's plus money is great, because especially what we've seen recently in that top 10 market, it's been kind of tough sledding for getting plus money. I don't know. I that's why I kind of migrated. Like I said, I was originally looking to play him in a top 10, but the fact that I've seen him kind of slip up, more recently, his speed's kind of like dwindling down if you look at like the length of the season on these comps. So it was just like, I'll just rather take him to beat one other driver, and we'll see how it plays out. Because if he finishes top 10, I think he wins the matchup. So, but we'll see how the weekend unfolds.
And our guy Ian is saying, plus 475 for Harvick as a top Ford. Is that worth the play?
Ooh, I have not dug into like the top Ford. I mean, I think we're going to talk about Keselowski quite a bit, so I'll leave that to Mark. And the fact that Blaney's like hunting for positions, for points. I don't know if I would take that.
Okay. All right, Mark, I want to kick it over to you. When we're looking at the head-to-head market, Phil just talked about how Harvick over Logano is the side he's going. What about you in this market?
I'm also going with another Ford. And I want to talk about comp tracks though for a second. I have kind of this segregated look at it, kind of like Phil does. I have the high tire wears, which includes Homestead from last year, Auto Club, Dover, both Darlingtons, and Nashville. That's one little group. Then I have all the 1.5s, which Phil was talking about, kind of grouped into them. And then the last 3 playoff speedways, courtesy of Big Perm. He got me onto that. So I'm going to be kind of all over the place tonight with the stats and the comp tracks, but I feel like there was edges that I could find in high tire wear, which I'm elevating high tire wear tracks a little bit more than the other 2. So let's get into it. I'm doing Brad -125 or Bubba Wallace. That is on Bet365. Brad is 5th in Highline's model. And when I say that he might be slept on earlier, maybe just the books are sleeping on him. I don't know if I would imagine it sounded like Phil was on him too. I think a couple other guys are on him. I know Zach with Highline is also on him. But Bubba is 11th in Highline's model. Last year at Homestead, Brad finished 5th with a 5th place NLD speed ranking. Bubba did not race. If we look at those 3 comp tracks in the playoffs, actually there's 4 if you include Darlington with the high tire wear. Brad has a better speed ranking in 3 of the 4, also has a better finish in 3 of the 4. The only time Bubba got Brad was at Texas. And I thought this was interesting. Bubba Wallace has a 5th and a 7th at both Darlingtons this year. Brad Keselowski has him beat both times with a 4th and a 6th. I thought that was pretty interesting. Bubba Wallace has never finished in the top 10 at Homestead. He has a best finish of 13th back in 2020. He's also failed to not score a single stage point here at Homestead. So I don't know if it's the high tire thing. I think it is. I think Bubba Wallace is much better on the hold it wide open or hold it 80% to wide open 1.5 miles than the high tire wears. Now, he does have some good finishes at Darlington, but that's why I wanted to say Brad Keselowski has bettered him at both Darlington races, even though Bubba has run extremely well. So I'm gonna keep taking this RFK momentum, this RFK speed. The books have him at 22-1 outright, and we'll talk about that later. But I'm going to save some of the stats that I got going because I'm going to talk about Brad a few more times tonight. But the gist of this matchup is I think Brad is better at high tire wear. I think RFK has brought good setups to high tire wear tracks, including Homestead last year. And I think Bubba, I don't want to say he struggles at high tire wear, but he's anywhere from a 10th to 15th place car instead of, a 3rd to 7th place car at some of the low tire wear speedways we go to. So give me Brad in this one.
And what was that price one more time?
It was a -125 on Bet365.
Okay, thank you. Worm, I'm going to kick it over to you, let you close out this market. Where have you found an edge when looking at the head-to-head market specifically?
Well, at this point in the week, I've only played one bet, so I don't want people to think that when I give a lean or something that I think that I've actually played it. So right now, I think that Reddick is a little undervalued in matchups, and I think that you could look at a guy like Denny Hamlin and say that Reddick has an edge there. If Reddick gets the high line going, he's second best. And it's not even like a close second best. So I think that what Reddick needs to avoid. So I'm looking at Denny Hamlin Tyler Reddick -120 against Denny Hamlin. The reason I like that is if you look at just the recent speed in those cars, I thought that Denny Hamlin's could be a lot faster last week. And you could say the same thing about Tyler Reddick. But let's go back a couple weeks and we go to Kansas where Tyler Reddick wins. Go back to Darlington where Tyler Reddick, I would say a very similar comp track along with Auto Club. Tyler Reddick finishes second. So I think that Tyler Reddick has just had more speed in his race car towards this latter half of the year that he had last year at this time. And if that's the case and he can stay out of trouble, which is going to be an issue with, by the way, both drivers like to find trouble in the 11 team and the 45 team. I still think that Tyler Reddick is clearly the second best car, if not the first best car this week. And so my lean would be Tyler Reddick -120 over Denny Hamlin.
Yeah, it's one thing that you said. They typically have some type of issues at times. Hamlin on pit road, and for Reddick, it's been coming on or coming off pit road because of his team not having a tire on tight or something. But that team has shown a lot of speed. That 45 is going to be very interesting to watch. And Hamlin's numbers here are also very good. But like you said, the 45 is a very, very, very close second right now to the 5. So let's go to the finishing position props. And Mark, I'm going to let you kick this off. Where have you been able to find a betting edge when it comes to this market?
I agree that Denny Hamlin has had issues self-inflicted wounds, fastest car, and doesn't finish races. We could say that about a few different guys this year, but I'm going Denny Hamlin top 5 for my prop, plus 120 on Bet365. I think he's plus 110 at most places. But he's top 3 in every stat that I'm about to rattle off. And if I just think this is a recipe for success. You know, when we think of Homestead, we don't necessarily think of Denny Hamlin. His worst finish in the last 10 Homestead races is 12th. That's a lot of races for Denny Hamlin to not have something go wrong. He's led a bunch of laps here, but we don't necessarily think of Denny Hamlin when we come to Homestead. But he's second in Highlines model. He's first in win the races. He's second in comp track speed ranking, second average finish over the last 3 comp tracks this year in the playoffs, second behind none other than Mr. Brad Keselowski himself. Are the entirety of the comp tracks, the 9 tracks that Phil was talking about, he's first in average running position. He finished 7th at Homestead last year. In the last 5 Homestead races, he's 3rd in average running position and also 3rd in average finish. So I love Denny Hamlin, top 5 at plus money. Don't necessarily love him outright. I would rather go with Reddick and maybe a little Chevy plus 110. We'll talk about that here in a second. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm looking at future plays, but anyway, love me some Denny Hamlin top 5. Anything even money and better. I jumped on him at even money. I actually don't have Bet365 available this week, but I would still take him even money or better.
But hey, so let's just say I agree with you that Denny will probably be top 5. That's how tight these markets are. Is we're looking at a guy that I think is going to run 1st or 2nd versus a guy that I think is going to run 5th. So that's why you're paying a little bit of a premium. So it's okay to like Denny Hamlin in a top 5 at a plus payout and still like Tyler Reddick at minus 120, because I do think that the 5 and the 45 do set themselves apart. If they do get that high line going, that's something that Denny can't do. But I also think that Denny will run top 5. So that's how close we're talking these margins are in tight numbers. So and this is also something we talked about before the show, is it's harder and harder later in the season because the books have more information, odds makers have more information, and that's how tight this series has gotten, especially at the top.
One more thing, Derek. What you said, Chris, about if Larson or Reddick or whoever can get the high line rolling, they have the setup in the car and they get it rolling. I don't care what you do on the bottom 3 to 4 lanes, you are not going to catch either one of these guys. So if they keep it off the wall, they have the setup, they start ripping the wall, they have the long run car. I don't care if Denny Hamlin is the best car by 5 car lengths entering the corner on the bottom. These guys on the top are just going to roll by them. So it's an interesting conversation. Do you put weight and emphasis on the guys that rip the wall, or are you just looking at all sorts of high tire wear speed?
Chris, I'm going to kick it back to you. I was going to give you the floor next anyway. So when we look at the finishing position market, where have you found an opportunity this weekend for the people?
Man, I'm going to agree with Mark. I really like this Brad Keselowski top 10. He last week, I think he exceeded expectations. He didn't look that great in practice. The one thing that Brad does a really good job of is maintaining his track position. If you look back at last week, he actually lost positions on the first run. So I thought, well, this, I had some matchups against him. I'm like, great, Brad didn't move up. Well, Brad was able to steal some track position and then mix it up with the leaders for the rest of the day. Yeah. If you take that along with his ability to manage tires, and last year we can all agree that RFK is not anywhere near where they are this year. If you were to take that same car from last year, add a little bit more speed that RFK has seen this year, and I think you have a top 3 run and in maybe a second place car. I don't think anyone was a first place car, or maybe a Truex is pretty good at as the second best car, but you could make a case that Brad was arguably the 3rd best car. And I think that they have to have some momentum. Brad needs a win. He's going to be really aggressive. I don't think he's out there, trying to run second. So I don't think you can necessarily steal track position, but even if Brad starts, in 20th, I certainly think he can work his way back up through the field.
Yeah, so Brad Keselowski, like you said, a number of us were fading Brad last week, and clean air is king, and track position is as well, and they were able to master that. So it'll be interesting to see what the Holt RFK team does. And we were talking, like you said, before the show, even when Chris Buescher, 2021, when RFK was pretty much shit, they still came out, or he did anyways, and they scored a top 10 or near a top 5, I believe, is what we talked about. So it'll be really interesting to see as this team continues to progress and they keep adding more and more people to that company, how they will be. Phil, I'm going to let you close this out. Where have you found a betting opportunity this week in the feature or the finishing position market?
Yeah. No, I'm just fired up because I like what both of our my guests, panelists here, my co-panelists here have
They can be
said.
your guests.
I'm on their side on those bets. I'm going to call out one that I was kind of surprised to see the odds. It was minus 115. I just checked. The book I took it on was Caesars. Now it's minus 120. Kyle Busch for a top 10. And I don't know, with the top 10 markets, when they come out, like we're seeing minus 450 or whatever for Larson. I kind of just like skim to the equator essentially and try to see what I can get. And I kind of just assumed Kyle was like further up the board, and minus 115 and now minus 20, definitely shop it around. My site that I get the best odds are where they're at is not working at the moment, so I can't give you the best number, but last 5 races at Homestead, he's the only driver to finish in the top 10 all 5 times, 100% hit rate at that racetrack, which I don't know. I don't really think of Kyle necessarily at Homestead. Maybe that's just me, but 6.0 average finish. That's second in that time span. And then Auto Club and the 2 Darlingtons. I'm going off of the iFantasy race direct comps. I know, Mark, you mentioned a couple other high tire wear tracks, which is good. I liked hearing that. I'm going to kind of run with that the rest of the week. But for my stats, looking at this year, those 3 high tire wear tracks, the direct comps, he's 6.3 average finish, 2 for 3 hitting a top 10, second in drive rating. And then when you loop in the rest of the mile and a halfs, 4th in total speed. He finished 3rd last week at Vegas, finished a bad finish, I think, at Kansas, but he was running like 7th. It was a mechanical issue, I think I remember. So this is a driver. He's out of the playoffs, kind of like out of sight, out of mind, I guess. But I like everything that I'm seeing here, and to get him, that minus 115 number or anything around that, I feel like is pretty solid for Kyle Busch. So we'll roll with that and see how he makes out in practice qualifying.
Yeah, so like you said, Kyle Busch minus 120 right now, top 10. Mark, you touched on Denny Hamlin, top 5 at plus 120. And then Worm, you were talking about Brad Keselowski, and there was some Brad K love coming from Mark as well, top 10, minus 110. Let's look at the outright market now. And, Phil, I want to kick it back to you here. When we look at the outright market, where have you been able to find an edge?
So I talked on the podcast. I was trying to think of like how to play the outrights. I've been a little lackluster in the outright department. I had a win like a couple weeks back. But for this week, I was really just saying, you know what, I want to wait a little bit. I want to hear what everybody's kind of putting out there. But the one bet that I did throw out there was Ross Chastain at 16-1. I feel like earlier in the week, you need somebody like further down. Understand he's not racing for a championship. But looking at the stats, it kind of, spoke to me a little bit because I feel like we might be able to beat the market a little bit here. So doesn't have a great career at Homestead, obviously, for the reasons that we all know, in the cars that he was driving, but he finished 2nd last year in this race, and he started 20th in that race. And, he was running the top 15, 98% of the race. I mean, he was like quickly moving through the field last year. And then you go to the 2023 season, definitely a little bit of a letdown from last year, but the high tire wears, or the 3 comp tracks on high tire wears, Darlingtons and Auto Club, his average finish is 7th, 12.3, but it's because he had a rough finish at one of the Darlington races. The other races are 3rd and 5th. He's first in driver rating at those racetracks, so pretty solid. And he's led the second most average laps, second to Denny Hamlin. Then you bring in the mile and a halfs, 5 top 5, 7 top 15s. It just seems like if you're looking for somebody like a little bit further down the road, he could be that guy. Fourth in driver rating with all the mile and a halfs and 6th in total speed. And the reason why I think we might be able to get a little bit of a jump on it, 16-1, is because as far as his starting position is concerned on these 9 tracks that we're looking at here, he's only started outside the top 10 twice. So, clearly he unloads well, or has proven that, and he's got speed. So it seems like on race day, he might be going off a little bit shorter than 16-1.
Okay, so you like Ross Chastain, you like that number there. How about you, Mark? What's a driver that you found that you really like here midweek?
I have probably the most unfun outright this week, so I'm going to give my unfun one, then I'm going to give a little bit of a fun one. So a couple weeks ago, Big Perm and I were talking. What do you think Larson opens up at Homestead? And it's like, 3. Nah, no way it's 3. It's got to be like, 3.5, 4-1. Well, not only did we not get 4-1, but we also got Kyle Larson already locked in to the championship 4. So as time has gone on, I've faded more and more away from Kyle Larson, from betting him at that 275 if you're lucky to find a 3 out there. But I don't mind a Chevy to win plus 110. So you can rattle off all you want about Kyle Larson. Everybody loves Kyle Larson. That's fine. I still love him too, just not sub 3-1. But when you bring in Byron and you bring in Chastain that Phil was talking about, and you bring in Kyle Busch, those guys have a chance to win this race. Now, Byron ahead of the other two, hands down, Byron and Larson for that matter. But if you are so gung-ho on Kyle Larson this week, just dip down and take Chevy. You pick up Byron as well. Both of those guys have been so lights out, especially in the first half of the season. But both of these guys have just been unbelievable on high tire wears, mile and a halves, any track that we've gone to. So that is my sales pitch to take Chevy this week at plus 110. I don't think there's a better number out there. But if you want to get a little bit more fun, we're going with Brad Keselowski, 20-1. Shocking. I know. I have made both of these bets, actually. I did not put a ton on Brad Keselowski outright. It's tough to bet a non-playoff driver on a playoff track, on a playoff oval. But we've rattled off a bunch of stats about him. He's got the best average finish in the 3 comp tracks in the playoffs, Kansas, Texas, and Vegas. If you bring in the high tire wears, he's 3rd in average speed ranking over the course of the year. His worst NLD speed ranking is 10th on those 9 comp tracks. So I love the top 10 bet that Chris was talking about. I don't mind a 20-1. I don't think it's going to hit. I don't think it's going to win. But it's a little fun little outright. I definitely have much more on a plus 110 Chevy. But once again, if you're thinking about betting Larson, if you love Larson, if you haven't bet him yet, if you've already bet him, you got to stick with it. If you haven't bet him yet, seriously think about Chevy plus 110.
Okay, so I like that. I can get behind that for sure. And Worm, what about you? Anything that the guys said or anything from a number perspective you found that would help educate the people as they're looking at the odds board?
The only one that I actually considered playing was Brad K. At this point in the week, it's not about picking a winner. It's about predicting where the market's going to go. And I can't see anyone playing Kyle Larson at plus 250 and beating the market. I mean, you could. He would have to look really good in practice and qualifying, but he looks really good in practice and qualifying every week. So I can't imagine that price is going to go down at all. So I would shy away from Larson. I think that the Chevy is a good call. You're throwing in a guy like Chase Elliott and Alex Bowman. I'm not saying that those guys have a great chance to win, but Chase has nothing to lose. He gets it around there. He had a chance to win in 2020 until I think him and Kyle had a little bit of a brush up, and that's when we got the middle finger from Chase. So I do like the Brad K. It'll be interesting to see where Reddick's price is going to go. He typically practices pretty well and can qualify well also. But it's going to be hard. You can't have 2 guys sub 5, right? Because then you're not beating the market on anybody. then if you have two guys sub 5, well, you can just tear up that Keselowski ticket, because that 20-1 Keselowski ticket is going to be 30-1, just because the most of the hold is going to come with, those two guys out front. So I think you have to take long shots here. I know that there's a lot of people invested in Reddick, which I think is very fair. But if you think that Reddick's high line ability is going to win, then you're still going to have to beat Larson, who has a better high line ability. So I would just agree with Mark on this and say that Keselowski is probably the best price on the board at that 20-1.
One thing that we were talking about before the show started, and I just want to kind of get your thoughts on it, because I know a lot of people are thinking about it. I know we talked about it, but the fact that Larson doesn't have any pressure, right? He doesn't have that pressure of, I need to get a win. One, is that a real thing? We know every driver wants to go out and obviously win the race, and pressure is a real thing for every driver. But how does that play in differently with a guy that won in Larson, who's kind of maybe team's looking ahead a little bit more versus some of the other drivers? Is that a real thing in your opinion, or is that just smoke in our eyes?
Well, he didn't have any pressure last year and he beat the field down. So I don't know. He's never really had pressure at Homestead, I don't think. When he won the championship, it was in the spring. So I don't know. I know that he wants to win there, but he's wanted to win there a lot, and he hasn't always been the best car. Or he's always been the best car, but he hasn't won. And there's been multiple times when he's been led the most laps and had the most fastest laps, and he can clip the wall. I mean, that wall can come out and get you. Now, these cars are a little bit more durable than cars in the past, so I just think he's going to push and he's going to try to win the race. I don't know that it helps him or hurts him. I think he's going to try to win no matter what. Now, the other thing too is, what happens if Larson's leading and you have Chris Buescher in second place?
Okay.
If I'm Kyle Larson, I'm pulling the fuck over and I'm letting Chris Buescher punch a ticket to Phoenix. So, I don't know. Does that play a role? You know who I don't want to see at Phoenix? I don't want to see Reddick. I don't want to see Blaney. I do not want to see Blaney at Phoenix if I'm Kyle Larson. So Kyle Larson kind of control the race. He can accidentally hit the wall. I got a tire going down, and the next thing you know, you got Chris Buescher punching a ticket instead of potentially Denny Hamlin or Tyler Reddick. So I don't know. I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but if I'm Larson and there's someone in second place that can eat up a spot, I don't know. I'm having an issue, and I'm coming down pit road. I got a tire going down, and Chris Buescher is going to win the race. Who else? Don't want to see William Byron if you're Larson. Right. You don't want to see Byron. You don't want to see Truex. I don't think Denny's that good at Phoenix.
Yeah, I was going to say he probably wouldn't mind Denny.
I don't think he minds Denny. I don't think he minds Bell. I think Tyler Reddick would be a problem. I think Ryan Blaney would be a problem. So I think if you have Bell, Buescher, or Hamlin behind you, I think you pull it over. That's what I do.
Well, that's interesting. That's interesting. This is getting a lot of comments in the comment section here on YouTube.
That would
for sure.
That would create the best rivalry ever going forward. You're just spitting on the guy's face.
You are, exactly.
You fucking suck.
And it would be awesome if you did it.
I want you there.
That'd be best.
You want to really piss off Denny Hamlin. It would be like, I ain't afraid of you.
I know.
I want you. I'm afraid of someone else. All you gotta do is say you got a tire going down. I don't know. I think that's
he's got an itch.
Yeah, he's got an itch.
He's got an itch. That would be funny if Fox was covering it and Boyer had to talk about that.
Fox would have to cover something for it to be even on Fox, because they just stay home and they're not even doing the truck practice on Friday. So I'm going to be around the track with my phone trying to get some type of video for everybody, whenever I can. But it'll be interesting to see what happens, especially with that, like you said, with that 5 team. But even to that point, then we'll move on here. If something like that would happen, Denny Hamlin on his podcast is going to be like, I'm going to do this live, and you're going to see the SMT data, and you're going to see synced up with the scanner audio and all that. So let's do this. Let's move into the last segment here. And Chris, I'm going to let you kick this off. When we look at every single market, and there's a lot of different markets available to many in different states, different opportunities, what's something that you found of a betting edge? And what's maybe, even on top of that, what's a market that you look for of, hey, when we go to a high tire wear track, 1.5 miles, here's where you kind of target, a certain position.
Well, I did. The only bet I've actually made is Austin Dillon top 10 at 6-1. That's the only bet that I've actually put my own money on. But
can I give you an Austin Dillon fact? Can I give you an Austin Dillon fact first?
Sure.
Because this was said on the Twitter Spaces by, I'm going to find it. But Austin Dillon, okay, Rev, I see you here. Austin Dillon has 7 straight top 12s at Homestead. 7 straight.
You're going to give me 6-1 top 10? I know he hasn't been running as good this year. Like, I get it. But I'm not getting even money. I'm not even getting 2-1 or 4-1. It's 6-1. I think it's moved a little bit since then. But have you guys seen Xfinity odds come out yet?
No.
Okay, I have.
Okay.
Would you think that is Dale Jr. better at Homestead or Bristol?
I'm going to say Bristol.
I don't know. Is he? I'm asking.
Oh. I'm not
I don't
sure.
know. I thought he was really good running
long.
the high line and tire wear. I think if anything that Dale Jr. has been really good at, it's been managing his tires. He's as good as Denny Hamlin, in my opinion. What do you think he opened?
That's a good question.
14.
Nope.
12.
8.
Nope.
Oh my God. All right. I'm out on this.
30.
I'm out.
30.
He opened 30-1 in JGR equipment. Or JGR. JRM equipment. JGR.
Breaking
If
news.
it was in JGR equipment, oh my God. Pound that. No, he opened at 30-1. I don't think that's a bad number at all. If you're telling me you're going to get a long run to the finish, I thought he exceeded expectations at Bristol, and I think he's better at Homestead than he is at Bristol. And that is worth a play. Could you imagine how crazy that place would be if Dale Jr. were to pull off an Xfinity win? So I don't know. Those are my 2 little nuggets. I did play Dale Jr. at 30. So I don't know that number is still around, but yeah, look for them to hang that number.
Okay. So 31, we almost saw that, scenario play out where he almost got a win. He was in contention. And I remember watching that being like, are we about to see the most vintage scenario possible play out? Before I get to Mark and Phil, Worm, I know you're on a couple different shows here tonight. Don't want to hold you up past the 55 minute here. Go ahead real quick. Just let everybody know how they can support you and what you got going on. I know you have a big show coming up here on Sunday with the pre-race poll. But first and foremost, thanks for joining and bringing so many people listening across all platforms. So how can everybody get connected and support you?
Yeah, I mean, just follow me on Twitter at ChrisWormy15. Definitely check out the pod at BetTheBoardPod, and stay green with Todd. I think that we're kind of catching our groove on. Well, I'm not catching my groove on the best bets. I mean, I seem to fumble that every week. It's like, hey, I usually pick someone to finish top 5 or top 10, and they're the ones that disappear. Like Denny Hamlin last week completely disappeared. Probably why I'm jaded and fading him this week. But and then the pre-race poll is just something I do on YouTube, and I think I figured out how to do it on X, but I don't know. It's not like they post a link, so you can't say. You just have to say like, hey, be on X at this time. So
right.
I'm going to figure out how to do that. But basically, I just do a driver rundown and kind of make my predictions on where I think guys are going to finish, go over some best bets, and talk about the playoff implications, which I don't think this week there's not going to be a lot of strategy. I mean, 4 tires and fuel is going to be the strategy. I think crew chiefs have it pretty easy this week. The only kind of strategy I could imagine happening would be if there was a lot of cautions early and they start to run out of tires. I think you could see some people start to stay out or at least get concerned and say, hey, we need some green flag racing, or they'll just say, hey, we have 4 sets of tires left. There's 120 laps left in the race. We need 30 lap stints on average in order to use the tires. So yeah, definitely check out the pre-race poll. Try to answer some questions. Definitely get have a drink. Bring an adult beverage with you, and we'll do the lucky collective clink, and we'll take a little poll.
I love it. I love it. Well, I appreciate it, man, very much. Thanks for joining us, jumping on here. Your marathon has just begun tonight. So thanks again for hopping on. Tell Todd we said hi, and looking forward to checking out the poll this week. Mark, I'm going to let you go next here when we look at this specific market. You can go anywhere you want. So where have you found value across the board? Where are you taking the people?
Brad Keselowski, top 10 finishes.
Okay.
Yeah. He finishes in the top 10, -110. I know big perms on it. This is my best bet. This is my value bet. This is the largest bet that I have so far this week. Let me just rattle off some finishes here. 7th, Fontana. 8th, Dover. 4th, Darlington. 6th, Darlington. 9th, Kansas. 7th, Texas. 4th, Las Vegas. His worst speed ranking in all of them, 10th. So I'm all about Brad K. I know we talked about it on a matchup. We talked about him 20-1. Don't worry about those. Take top 10, -110. I know it's at Bet365. I believe it's also at Bet Rivers. There's a couple books have it, so you should have access to it. Don't worry about the outright. Don't worry about the matchup. If you only want one play from me, from anything to do with Brad Keselowski, take him top 10 at -110. That's all I got.
All right. So Brad K -110, top 10. Phil, close us out, my friend, for the night. Where are we going?
I'll be quick, but I'm going to throw 2 plays out there because we've just been pumping Brad's tires all goddamn night. And I got one more for you. Before the race even starts, Brad Keselowski -140 over Chase Elliott, best qualifying matchup. This is an absolute steal at -140. And if it scares you, parlay it with something that you feel confident about on college football Saturday, because
Penn State.
Well, no, I'm not confident, but Chase has been struggling on practice and qualifying day this season. He's got a fourth place starting position, 6th place, and 13th. Other than those 3, he's got 5 outside of the top 20. And Brad is 7-1 against him. Remember, Chase missed a race, so I'm working off these 9 comp tracks. Chase missed one. Chase's average starting position is 20.3. Brad, meanwhile, is 8 for 9, all inside the top 20, and he's got 4 for 9 inside the top 10. He started 9th, I think, last year. Now, Chase started ahead of him last year, but last season is a completely different deal for Chase. Meanwhile, you can kind of flip that script. Last year, Brad was really struggling to get some momentum with RFK, and this year is a completely different deal. So for all the reasons that he's going to be good on race day, I think he's going to be good on Saturday as well, and cash that -140 over Chase. And that's coming from someone who has money on Chase top 10 as well. Chase is going to overcome that bad start and cash that. The other one I'll throw out there, I know that Mark, I walked into a conversation earlier when I signed into the YouTube here. Mark and Chris have a sense that Larson and Reddick could just run that high line and just run away with it and start putting everybody laps down. But I am on the over of a bet that I absolutely love, that it's available to me on Caesars. It started at over 20.5 cars on the lead lap. I got it at that price. Now it's that number. Now it's 21.5, and it's -125. I think that number is going to go up again. And I love that this is a bet. I did some research into it. The last 2 races at Homestead were that hit the over. And then this season, I had to pull my stats out here. This season, it's just been a really good stretch. Last 15 races, 12 of them, including Talladega and Daytona, had the over hit in this one. And the average of these 9 comp tracks this season, leading cars finishing on the lead lap, is 22.6. So I think the real number here should be 22.5. And we'll see. The only fear that you have is what Mark and Chris were kind of discussing, I think, is one of these guys just take it and just go, and there's no cautions. But last year there wasn't that many cautions, if I believe, at Homestead, and that number still cashed easily. think there was 25 on the lead lap last year. So I love that this is a bet. I had to take it after doing a little research. I feel strongly about it. So
I like it.
Have a little fun with it. Cheer for some back markers to keep their shit together.
I like it. I do. I don't make the mistake I did last week. If anybody's going to place any head-to-head bets on Caesar Sunday morning, I was so happy with some of the markets that I saw. I quickly grabbed Brad Keselowski, or I'm sorry, I quickly grabbed Bubba over Brad K, thinking that was a full race. It ended up being a stage bet, not stage 1, stage 2. They put it right in the middle of all the races. They put like 2 stage bets, then they put 3 race bets, then they put 2 more stage. It was a mess. So I kind of messed up. Showed my true colors there as a rookie. So don't do that. Don't make that mistake. Hopefully they clean that up so it makes it a little easier for us, the gambler. But make sure you check that bet slip a little extra hard as well. Mark, I'm going to kick it over to you. Close us out here. How can everybody support you? Appreciate so much your time here over the last hour, and everybody that's tuned in on X, on YouTube. How can everybody support what you got going on? I know you have a long night ahead of you as well.
Yeah, that's right. Land Coin will be out late tonight. We got the guy that you just heard, Big Perm. He's got 3 shows tonight. We are the 3rd, so that should be a good one. We'll have Zach, we'll have Rory, and we'll have Big Perminator on as well. We'll have Through the Gears out with our buddy Rye Cape on Friday afternoon. And just stay tuned to the Discord. Stay tuned to Twitter. We're going to have a bunch of fun stuff. I love Homestead. There's going to be a bunch of stuff getting put out. Back-to-back outrights Sunday morning. I had 2 plays last week. They both won. I had 1 play the week before at the Roval, and it was 1. So I'm 3-0 on Sunday mornings after the last 2 weeks. So I'm looking forward to Homestead. I'm feeling confident, feeling good. Less plays, more money equals more profit. So thanks, Derek. I appreciate it. And go support all you guys listening. Go out there and support all the different podcasts. There's a lot of good stuff out there, and Homestead's one of the gambler's dreams, as I like to say.
It's true. I get up a little extra for a weekend like this. Phil, how about you? I know, like I said earlier, your podcast dropped this morning, but how can everybody support what you got going on?
Yeah, Full Tank with Phil's the name of the podcast. You can find me at Full Tank Phil on Instagram and on here. And looking forward to a good weekend. I didn't get a chance to tell Chris that I'll be staying at his house this week as the Phillies go to see the Diamondbacks. Tickets are available for $10 apparently. That shop down there. Yeah, I just spent $400 on game 1 tickets, so it's a little bit of a discrepancy. Chris doesn't know. He doesn't know it yet. So
I'll give you his address.
Yeah. So yeah, everybody have a good weekend. Homestead is a just fun race to watch, and we'll go out and we'll see Young Money get it done, right? That's right. And keep it going for the championship, because I'm another one that has a Young Money title ticket, so I'm feeling good about that one. So have fun this weekend and enjoy it, because we're going to be pining for it in about a month from now.
I agree with that. Yeah, I can't believe that, we have 2 episodes here left of us doing this, and next Wednesday will be Martinsville, then the finale in 2 weeks at Phoenix. We're going to run it back. We're going to do the live show from Phoenix Raceway again. We're going to have a lot of fun that night, have a lot of guests come on and join us. So it's going to be a star-studded event there, and can't wait to get out to Phoenix and do that event and just have a lot of fun. So I can't thank everybody enough for joining. Johnny on the Track, he put out a show yesterday. Make sure you download, subscribe to the NASCAR Betting Preview Show podcast. This show here will be live Wednesday. You can listen to it at any point. And make sure you, like Mark said, support all these guys. There's so many guys, Rob, Matt, Rowdy, Rory, Ozzy. There's so many good people here in the community and doing shows and creating content. We only have 3 weeks left, so let's all go balls to the wall. Go all out here and do what we can as the community. So thanks again for listening, YouTube. Thanks for tuning in Between Media. Thanks for allowing us to broadcast this live. And we'll catch you back here next week, same time, same place, as we get to preview Martinsville.